Hello everyone and welcome finally to Victoria 3. The game is finally upon us. October 25th is release, and Paradox was kind enough to sponsor this video to provide me a key so we can play this beautiful game. But only the first video is sponsored, the other ones are not. The other ones I'm playing because the game is absolutely fantastic. I gotta say that. And I've been able to try it out a few times myself now, and we're finally jumping into a full let's play, jumping into the 19th century, and yeah, well, probably going to either perish pathetically or conquer the world. Of course, world conquering is not the primary goal of this game, but what the primary goal of this game is, we are going to explore now step by step, unraveling this big, massive, complex monster of a game. And well, without further ado, I think we should just jump right into it, shall we? The first thing that we need to do right away is deciding on one of the many options that we have. We can learn the game in a tutorial, so we do get tutorial missions. We can also have a certain goal, like egalitarian society or reaching economic dominance, or, well, military dominance, that is. But we're going in a sandbox game. Of course, we're playing without a strict objective, though we do have quite a few objectives. You'll see that soon. Let's go right into this one here. And the beginning of every game in Victoria 3, like with Crusader Kings and stuff like that, is that we need to decide on a country, right? We need to decide on a nation, and we have a lot. We can play everything that we see on this map globally, right? So we do have the great Qing dynasty over there playing as an unrecognized major power that is China. We can play as the isolated Japanese. We can play as Russia, the biggest country in the world, but not necessarily the most powerful one. We can play as Austria, my home country. We are not going to play as Austria in our first playthrough. We are going to jump into the United States. Now, I've thought hard about what country to start first, and United States it is. United States has quite a few issues and quite a few very cool themes that we can discover in this playthrough. We're going to have a setting type, so we're going to enable the Iron Man mode, of course. That means I cannot save myself, right? The game is always automatically saving and over-saving, so I cannot load back any previous save file. With that, we also have the achievements enabled. We're going to go with the standard settings for our first playthrough because we're still kind of like learning the game. So it will be, of course, there will be many mistakes being made and stuff like that. The game is just so big that it's sometimes pretty hard to keep track of all the things that you need to consider when you do some certain actions. And these are the settings, right? So all standard except Iron Man, which makes the game, of course, harder because mistakes you made are permanent. Also, United States, we're starting out with President Andrew Jackson in 1836, and we're going to have a whole bunch of things that are going to happen in this playthrough. Of course, my major goal is unifying the United States of America and making it what it is today, and also taking Alaska from Russia over there, which is going to be one of the primary big concerns that we have. Of course, also our biggest concern is the expansion to the west, right? So to California, to the west coast, and to Oregon. For that, we will need to have some battle around with the Native Americans. We'll also need to have some fighting with Mexico, of course. And Canada, which is still under British Crown right now, is going to be a problem for us. Another major thing, of course, is slavery. So this is another thing that makes the United States of America really interesting to play, I think, because you need to fight slavery. Of course, you need to abolish slavery, which is one of the greatest themes of the 19th century. And with that, also the American Civil War that we'll see. Another thing that is really cool is industrialization. All nations in this game fight this, or kind of like not fight this, but have to go through that challenge, and that is also educating your population with that. So quite a lot of things, and of course also the women's suffrage, so the universal suffrage law. So women are also allowed to vote. Right now, they're still property of man, and we should definitely also change that in this course of the 19th century. So a lot of challenges. I hope we can succeed at that. I'm also going to stop talking now about the grand scheme of things. We are going to jump into this game now, and I hope you're going to enjoy this one. I definitely will enjoy this one, even though we are going to make a lot of mistakes. Please don't butcher me. But I'm also, of course, very appreciative of any kind of advice and feedback that you guys can also give me in this playthrough. Without further ado, let's jump in. Go, 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 go. Alrighty, and here we are now in the United States, starting 1836, looking at Washington right now, our capital. So really cool, we can really zoom in quite far, and it's a lot of details, and this is all going to change what we see here. There's going to be trains, there's going to be paved roads, there's going to be skyscrapers at some point, so we can see a lot of city development in this game, more than in any other Paradox game before, right? So it's all going to develop. Right now we have New York over there, not really fully developed, but already pretty big as well, one of our big cities that we have. And if we zoom out a bit, we can see that the cities disappear, but the states appear. So we got the state of New York, for example, the state of Pennsylvania, the state of Washington and Maryland that we have here, the District of Columbia with Washington as the capital city. And we can also see their strengths and weaknesses and their economic scope. So for example, how many people do live in these states here. We can also see their standard of living. We can see the use of their infrastructure and taxation capacity and so on. Any kind of parameter that we would like to know if we want to build something there, when we want to build something there. Now bear in mind, for starters, this game is massive. It is extremely complex. There is so many stuff that I could explain right away, but I'm not doing this because that would kind of like disrupt the flow of the game. So we're going to play the game, and whenever something comes up, I'm trying to explain it. But I definitely want to keep a certain flow in this game to get going, right? So you can also see something. I don't want to turn this into a snooze fest where I'm going to explain now 30 minutes the features of this game, or hours actually it would be, right? Let's unpause the game. So the game gets started now at level 1, right? We have 5 speed levels. We start with level 1, so the game is running now globally. So the whole game, right, everyone is kind of like doing something now, and we have the states. Now the United States, as we know, have the problem with the expansion. That is one of the big challenges early on, together with slavery. So the expansion over here is going to create tension. We can see that there is some colonies being established right now, these here. So we expand to the west, but the problem is there's the Native Americans living here. For example, here we got the chieftain Haka Tamaha, and this guy right now, he is calm towards us, right? So his level is calm towards us, but it's going to get a lot more well, agitated in the future as more and more colonies are moving closer. So we're moving into that territory as we continue. We also got the Pawnee over here with the chieftain James LeFleur. So he actually has a pretty Western name, and James LeFleur is also rather calm towards us, but his tension is going to increase. Right? We can also see that they're rather weak on their military power. So this one only has 1 battalion. This one has 5 battalions. We right now have 11 battalions that we can use. So we would have the upper hand in a military conflict. However, of course, the number of soldiers is not the only parameter that we have to use, but also our technology, for example. Speaking about technology, let's go for an active research. We don't have an active research right now. This brings me to the technology tree. One of the first things we need to really get going early on is researching. We do have our 3 branches: production, military, and society. And all of them affect different things, right? Society is for laws, taxation capacity, also about new powers that we gain, like the arts, for example. So they're all for that. Military is all for soldiers, tax, military tech, but also for a strategy, how soldiers behave on the battleground, for example. And production is anything that affects our industry. As we can see, we do already have quite a lot of tech unlocked with the United States, right? So the nations all start with different techs already unlocked. The United States, for example, has the basic stuff already done. That is unlocking farming, for example, unlocking mining, and also unlocking steels, for example. So steel production is up and running already. We also have already a standing army that we can have with the barracks, for example. And we also have certain laws enabled, for example, that allows us to have a better urban planning, so creating cities and stuff like that. Now, for my first tag, I would really like, and this is a bit unusual perhaps, but I would like to go into the society tree and go down here to the modern sewage, and we would like to go for this one first, because this one is boosting my construction industry. And the better my construction industry is, the faster I can build buildings, right? So it gives me +5 construction sector. It also gives me a 10 maximum infrastructure from population. And since we're rather low on infrastructure, I take that bonus with me right away. So we're going to start with that first of all. It also doesn't take that long to research, 28 months only. If I go down here to the higher tiers, as we can see, research time increases to 10 years, for example, for this one. So we rather stay in the lower tiers for now, where only a few months are being needed for each tech. The same goes for production. Also here, 28 months only. The further I go down, the higher the research time is. For the steel railway cars, we have 10 years of research, for example. Right? So let's go with the cheaper techs first that give me tangible profits early on. So this is the research. It's going to be active now in the background. However, this is only my boosted research that we've chosen here. We're still researching the other things as well passively. So there's other things going to be passively unlocked as we progress, right? So not only one tech is being researched at the same time. Oh, we already have an event, Worcester versus Georgia. Where's that? Down here. President Andrew Jackson has defied the ruling of the Supreme Court and ordered the removal of the Cherokee people to the Indian Territory. So this is one of those conflicts that we have over here right away, and we only can say, is that even legal? So nothing really, and the Indian removal is being added to my journal. Alright, let's have a look at my journal there, because there we have the journal over there, and the journal is like quests that we have, right? A lot of missions that we have, for example, Texan statehood. So this one here, Texas will decide whether to accept US statehood. Texas is not in the US right now. And this would here open it up. And this one would allow Texas to join the United States. We would need to have a relationship that is better than 20. And Texas is at peace. I think right now Texas is at war with Mexico. Yes, there is a conflict here. So the battle in Texas between Mexico and Texas. And for what it is, so there we can see it. And Mexico is actually winning right now. Pretty clearly winning. And what does Mexico want? It's the war of independence from Mexico for Texas, right? So they're going to get independent from this. It seems like they're winning at the moment. Improve our relationship with Texas, first of all, because this will allow them to join us. And we want that as quickly as possible. Let's go for Texas, right? There we have them. Texas itself. They're cooperative towards us. And we can also have our first diplomatic interaction with them, improving relationships. This costs me something. It costs me 150 influence. Now we do have up here 1,150 it was actually. Now it's lower because we are using this one now to improve our relationship with Texas. We can also see this over here right away. Alright, so relationship is improved. It's at -2 right now, and this is improving now over time. And once it reaches 20 and Texas is at peace, we will fulfill this objective and they will join us. Let's actually make the Texan statehood one of our favorites, so we can see this one here now at all times. So it's an active quest that we have more or less. It's just happening in the background now. This brings me quickly now to my influence, right? So right now we have a general influence of 1,100, 1,200, something like that. It's being affected by a lot of things. It's not a replenishable resource, so we have a total amount at all times that is increasing with our power. And we can use this total amount for diplomatic actions, like improving our relationship with Texas, for example, right now. We also have bureaucracy. This is our taxation capacity, for example. It's a bit positive right now. This is also not something that is being replenished or something like that. It's a total amount that is based on our ability to create bureaucracy. We have authority, directly influenced by my rank, right? So authority right now is at 400, and we can also use this for something. And then we have money. Money is at 31,000 right now. This is something that replenishes, right? So this is something that grows. Right now we have a surplus of 32,000. That means that any kind of surplus gets into a gold reserve that we have, and we get a gold reserve of 3.2 million at the moment. For example, if we're negative, we're going to use our gold reserves. If the gold reserves reach 0, then we're going to go into deep territory of bankruptcy and stuff like that, but more on that later. Hopefully it will never happen, really. Right now it's a positive balance. That's pretty good. Let's check our events there. We have unused construction. Very good. Let's move into construction. One of the most complex things in this game. We can see right away in my buildings. Oh, wait a second. We do have some events. So I think it is actually good for starters that we keep the game paused real quick, because there's just too much stuff happening otherwise. I'm not going to pause the game usually later on, right? But right now there's just a lot of things that we still need to do. So the most prominent members of New York high society have been organizing luxurious parties in the new and lavish urban buildings. We can let them celebrate, they become loyalists, or the party will never end. Also, the +3 to the minimum expected standard of living is increased. but they also become 25% more loyalist. It's a problem because this is the standard of living. It's expected, it's increasing, right? So those people will expect a higher standard of living in the upper strata, and if I can't fulfill that, they get angry, right? So +3 is pretty steep. That means that I will not be able to fulfill this right away. So we'd rather go with let them celebrate. It's a 10% more loyalists from the upper strata and middle strata, so from the middle area, and there's no demand to that, right? There's no hook on that, so I can just go for that. Then we got the Finney proviso. So Charles Finney, the leader of the evangelicals, has proposed outright prohibiting slavery in all our new Western territories. Some really the religious ones. Some opponents demand simple moderation, but others are demanding legalization of slavery. Really, this is one of the big problems that we're going to have throughout this early game is slavery, beside decolonization, of course. So we're going to see a lot of these events, right? We can reject it. We can accept the proviso, and we can reject the proviso and expand slavery in the West. This will not be very good for the trade unions and the intelligentsia, so any kind of interest group that kind of like doesn't want that. So I'm going with the middle ground here. I'm going to accept the proviso and abolish slavery in the West. We can actually do this rather easily, because in the West, no one wants slavery. It's only really for the South. Sorry, actually, in the West, we also will see a lot of slavery. I was on the East right now. In the East, no one wants slavery anyway. There's another one event, so the last one for now. Chief John Ross, one of the principal Cherokee chiefs, has presented a petition to Congress asking them to void the treaty in which will compel the Cherokee Nation to relocate to the Indian Territory. So we had this event earlier, and this is the follow-up event now. And his petition has almost as many signatures as the entire Eastern Cherokee population. And we could say a treaty is a treaty. We cannot rescind. The rural folk will like this. And our conscience compels us to void the removal, and the rural folk will not like this. Now, I don't want to be too negative to the rural folk for now, because they're really powerful. So let's say a treaty is a treaty for now. Now, this brings me to the interest groups, all right? We need to continue there, and we need to go into my government real quick. We have a government, and Andrew Jackson is the president of that right now. Andrew Jackson is radical. So he, for example, endorses... oh, really? Where is he a radical, though? Alright, he really wants the highest ones, so guaranteed liberties. So he's a radical actually in good things, I think. So he wants the universal suffrage, so the universal voting system. He also wants to have protected speech, and he wants to have guaranteed liberties. So he's left radical, I think. Let's just go for this one here right away. So he wants to go for universal suffrage. There it is. It's one of our laws for distribution of power. And because he endorses this, we could enact this law with a 19% chance and 37% opposition. So there is a good chance that it could be enacted. I'm still not doing this yet because too many people would be unhappy. But let's just quickly look at my government. So Andrew Jackson is the president, and we have a legitimacy of 62%, which is average, right? Legitimacy decides how successful we are at getting new laws into our country. With 62%, it's an okay chance to enact new laws, but it's not a perfect chance. We have the southern planters and the rural folk in our government. So these are very powerful interest groups because they're agrarian, and right now we are an agrarian nation, right? We have lots of farms primarily, and animal farms, that is, slave farms and stuff like that. So these people are very powerful at the moment, and they have a clout of 20 and 14%, so a combination of 34% clout. That is pretty powerful. The industrialists are only at 17, for example, because we don't have that much industry yet. The intelligentsia, I think, is pretty powerful. Yes, they're at 20%. So these are the guys that would, for example, endorse abolishing of slavery. So they would be helping us a lot later on if we want to get into the nitty-gritty stuff of really abolishing it. And then we got some minor powers down here. The petite bourgeoisie, for example, so 10%, so these are the people living in the cities, so that's also not that powerful yet because we don't have that many people living in the cities. They will be extremely powerful on later on. We got the religious people. They're at 7%, so they're really marginalized and they're not that powerful. And we got the armed forces, our military. They're also only at 7% right now. Now, what's important here is that with the right amount of parties in my government, I can increase my legitimacy. We're at 62 right now. Let's try to reform the government. We're probably going to fail at this. If I put the intelligentsia in now and the industrialists, as we can see, we are only going to 51%. Armed forces would further reduce it again because the armed forces and the intelligentsia hate each other. So there's no chance that they would work together. The same goes with the religious people. Religious people and intelligentsia, for example, they don't really work together well, right? So we always need to watch out for what is working out well here. So we can get a maximum of 50. The southern planters and the intelligentsia also don't like each other that much. So there's really no chance to go for high legitimacy. We need to stick with the farmers for now. I could, however, get other conservative powers into my government, like the religious ones. And they really work together well with my planters, for example. And we actually can increase our legitimacy with that to 70%. The armed forces not. So that's good. We can increase our legitimacy. And why is that? Because the southern planters are in the Democratic Party, and the evangelicals want also to join the Democratic Party. The same with the petite bourgeoisie. They also want to join the Democratic Party. So let's also put them in. Yes, we can further increase our legitimacy with that to 84%, and we can confirm this, right? So they all joined now the Democratic Party here, which is a pretty big party now. It's the biggest one in our government right now, but it's fine for us because legitimacy of 80% makes it really easy for us to pass new laws. Now this brings me to the laws. So right now we have all these laws here, right? So power structure, economy, and human rights. These are, divided into these categories. And for example, in power we do have, for example, our governance principles. So right now we are a presidential republic, and it's probably going to stay this way for a long time. We also have a total separation of power between church and state. Very good. We have religious schools at the moment working. We got no health system, really. And we only have a local police force. There's not that many things that I can do so early in the game, right? Because we're not very powerful yet. So let's go for one of the laws that is a bit better, or a bit more likely to be endorsed, and that is the dedicated police force. So we will increase our police level with that. And as we can see, 52% of my people endorse this. So 52% of my clout, my interest groups endorse this. The intelligentsia, the rural folk, the petite bourgeoisie, and the armed forces. Only the southern planters don't like this so much, but that's fine. They will not radicalize. They're still pretty positive, and we can start enacting this. Now, it's not going to be enacted right away. There is going to be a process behind it now. We can see this here. So it's going to take now 170 days of debate, and then there is a chance of 24% that it gets succeeded right away, a 28% chance that it advances to the next level, and a 26% chance that it debates further, so that it rather sticks, or a 20% chance that it stalls, so it stays the same. So this is a rather low chance. So I think there's a high chance that we will progress this law further and even enact it in the future. So we can stick with it for now. There's also not that many people that oppose it, and it will be pretty positive for us long-term wise. Because a dedicated police force does what? It gives me the law enforcement institution, and it also gives me a 10% reduction to radicals, which is going to be pretty important. We want to have a low amount of radicals, because the higher the amount of radicals is, the more likely it is that there's a revolution brewing in the background. And I want to keep this number low. Now, enough with the laws for now. There's a lot to talk about laws, but we're going to move to them eventually at some point. Let's have a quick look at my budget. So right now my taxation level is at level 2. Right, so we're not doing that much taxation at the moment. This gives me some legitimacy bonus and also some further negative 10% radicals that we have here, right? The higher I go with taxes, the more radicals I will get, of course, the less legitimacy, but the more money as well. Right now, I think tier 2 is fine, as we are having a pretty positive balance. One of the things that I would like to do here, though, is consumption taxes. Right now, we don't have any consumption taxes, and we can enable one. This will cost me authority. We have 400, and we can also see how much each one of these here would cost me. In that case, it's pretty important to not taxate grain, for example. So something that really everybody needs for living, that's very bad, really, overall. This will make a lot of people unhappy. What is though not that expensive for us and brings in a lot of money? Services, right? So services are being produced in the cities, out of factories, for example, and there would be 22,000 additional income from this, and it will not really make people that much more angry. So let's go with taxation of services, and we get a 54,000 surplus right now on my on my income that we have. We could also increase government wages and military wages down the road. I'm not doing this for now, so we're going to keep the standard ones here, and my construction industry is also tier 2. Going for higher tiers is only possible once we research more tech down the road then. Now this brings me to the last point that we need to do before we unlock the game, and that is my construction. So let's have a look at my building. So this is one of the primary things in Victoria 3, right? Your economy, boosting your economy, having a profound knowledge of what your country can do and what not. Because every country in the world has different strengths and different weaknesses that we need to play to our advantage. And the US, for example, is very strong with basically everything natural resources wise, because they have a huge country and thus they have a lot of natural resources. Not of everything though. For example, rubber we cannot produce our own. I think coffee is also the other thing that we cannot really do. So we will need to work on that later. We can have a look at my industry first. So we do already have some productions up, some glassworks here, so 10. Some level 10 textile mills, so 10 textile mills. Right, and we have of course a lot of farms, so 56 cotton plantations, 69 maize farms. So as we can see, very strong on the farming, right? But that doesn't really say anything to me right now. We also got the different working modes. We're going to have a look at that later, because right now I'd rather stick with the basic one. Let's have a look at my market, because this is going to determine what I want to build next. Right now we have the market balance, right? And I'm going to check out what we really don't have right now. And grain is one of the things that we really don't have right now. There's a negative of 465. So we have a huge buy order in comparison to my sell order, right? So sell order, that is everything that is produced in grain. So all the farms that we have. And buy order, for example, my population needs 3,300 grain. My food industry needs 400, and my livestock ranches, so for example cows, need 155 grain. Right, so let's just check it out. We definitely need to provide more grain, because the lower your grain supply is, the higher the price for grain is. And we definitely don't want to have a high price on grain. It will make people very angry towards us. So my first action here would be to just build a few more grain plantations. Let's go into the building menu and just choose my wheat farm, because this is my grain production essentially. And we can already see where there is a good amount of grain that we can have and their productivity. So surprisingly enough, actually, New York and Massachusetts have a good productivity for grain at the moment. And each grain farm that we build will produce 30 grain, 6 sugar, and 9 fruit. It will also use 5 fertilizers. Luckily for us, we have 245 surplus of fertilizers right now. So we can definitely make this work towards us. Connecticut also has at least a profit implication here. So it's the only country where we do have, or only state where there will be some profit out of grain. But we're not going to make profit out of grain, right? We just want to supply our population to keep the radicals low. So let's go ahead and build 2 more farms in New York and 2 more farms in Massachusetts. This is going to provide me already with some grain. I just need to check it out again. 460 is the negative right now. Yeah, let's also have in Connecticut some 2 grain plantations that are going to be constructed there. We can also check this one out real quick, and there we can see it. These grain farms will take some time now, right? So some weeks to construct them. That will be happening here in, for example, New York, the state of New York that we have right now. And we can also see it then down here, wheat farms are being produced now. Let's unpause the game really, because this can work now. So everything that is important is working now for us. That is also then our production, right? Or our construction really. And as we can see, the time is now ticking, and we already finished the first day, which is a week. And this construction is now ongoing. Now we can use this to quickly have a look at my other industries that we have, or that we want to have in my territory. So another thing is iron is pretty low, right? And iron is really important for, or is being used in the food industry, for example, in the tooling workshop industry, but also, and that is very important, in my construction. We want to boost construction. Right now we're using the iron frame buildings construction technique, and this is consuming tools. This is consuming fabric, wood, and iron. A lot of iron, by the way. And as we can see, because iron is being used now for construction, the price is going up. And the higher the price, the more expensive it is for us to produce stuff. So we need to check out, or we need to make sure that we produce a lot of these raw materials. That is wood, iron, and tools. Let's go ahead and have a look at my resources, and that is my iron mines. And for iron mines, it's a bit different, right? So we will make a profit in a lot of states with iron mines. We also should check out that we have a nice productivity boost in these. So I'm rather going to sort it with productivity. And as we can see in New York, we have a 150% productivity boost to iron mines in comparison to my other states. The same goes with Connecticut and Virginia. I would like to have a look at that. And why is that the case? Because, for example, in Virginia, we do have the Appalachian Mountains, and mountains add throughput to your mines, especially here the coal mines that are getting boosted. But another thing that decides the productivity is how many workforce do we have in these states. So in New York, Virginia, and Connecticut, we have a lot of people already living there. Let's have a look at Connecticut. Yeah, it's very small, right? We do have actually 33,000 peasants available as laborers that can work in this area, but we don't have that many mines. So New York really has a lot of mines available. So we could also build mines here, but I'm already building the wheat farms in New York. I don't want that. I don't want to focus everything into one state. That's not very good. So let's go with Virginia as my next iron mines. Let's build some 3 more. We get 40 production per mine out of it. We would need quite a few of them, but at least we can already reduce the price for iron with every iron mine that we build. Right, so let's build 4 in Virginia and 2 more in Connecticut. Right, so they will have a nice boost there of productivity for that. Another thing is wood. We don't have a lot of wood right now, so it's at 160 negative. It will also consume us tools. Tools get more expensive the more factories we have to consume tools, of course. It also requires 500 mechanists, 100 capitalists, and 4,000 laborers per logging camp. That's still okay. Let's have a look. Where do we have some productivity for that? I would like to really mix it up a bit, right? In Illinois, we do have a very high profitability implication. Illinois has the Mississippi River, and with that some 20 infrastructure boost. And the higher the infrastructure, the higher the productivity of my factories. Now it's also worth to just have a look at my different states, what bonuses they have. So for example, in a lot of states we have the American chestnut forest bonus that gives me a 25% hardwood output, so for the logging camps. However, we don't need hardwood right now. We only need normal wood, and there is no bonus for that as far as I know. So it's only there's a bonus for hardwood, but not for the normal wood, right? So it would not make that much sense to build anywhere else. Let's build in Illinois for now, because we do have a good market access, a very high infrastructure, and 85,000 peasants available. Plus, I also would like to spread out my basic industry throughout the US to just build up more states at once, right? Rather than focusing on 1 or 2 states. So Illinois, for example, gets some logging camps now. And I think... where do we have some high profitability there? Montana. Montana is over here. Is that actually already in our... No, Montana is still a colony only, right? So it's not really an integrated state, which is not that great. So let's not use Montana as my building up. Kentucky, Ohio, Minnesota, Wyoming. Yeah, that's also not going to work out. Kansas. Let's start... No, actually... yeah, let's start in Kansas with that as well, as we will see some profit there. Now, one thing to really remind here is that whenever I build something somewhere, we need to make sure this state has a market access, right? So we have the American market access right now, as we can see, 100%. And if it's at 100%, it directly contributes to our American market. If it is lower than that, so only 80% for example, then only 80% of the goods that are being produced are going to be accessed to the American market. So it will only get us 80% output then to my American market. So we always need to make sure that we do have 100% American market when we are in a state. So in here we have the 100% for example. And the market access is determined directly by the infrastructure. So right now in Illinois, for example, where we're building the logging camps, we do have a lot of infrastructure. Why? Because of the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River gives me 20 infrastructure bonus. So we have 37 available infrastructure in Illinois, and we're using 8 of that right now. So as long as we have less than 37 infrastructure usage, we will have 100% American market access. So it's very good to start our industry where we have lots of infrastructure. So Illinois is a perfect start for that. I think Michigan also has the Great Lakes. That gives me the 15 infrastructure bonus. So Michigan will also be very useful for industry later on. Yeah, in my events, I can see that the input goods shortage of iron is really affecting our market right now. So with that, with this shortage that we have, we are really hurting our economy right now by being very expensive. Also, tools, clippers, and iron in general are very expensive. So we should work on these things to ease the pain, right? I think, yes, we are climbing up on the radicals right now because of expensive goods. So in that case here, we do need to really drop the price for wheat, iron, tools in general. So I'm doing this here with my construction now. Now, I'm going to do something a bit risky right now. We have 35,000 income, but remember we had 50,000 plus. As we can see, our temporary national expense is 32,000 from construction right now. That means because we construct something and we don't have enough goods in that sector, we're paying a high price for these goods right now. So it's paramount that we boost iron production, tools production, wood production to get this price down. The problem with that is we are very slow with construction right now. So I'm going to do something risky here. I'm going to expand the construction sector, even though it is already pretty expensive. We can do this in the political lens down here, and we do have the construction sector option. So I can now implement new construction sectors. For each one of them, I will get a boost to my construction capacity, so we are able to faster build buildings. But each one of them costs me a total expense of 6,000. So I should be very careful with how many of them I want to implement, because this could get us into debt rather quickly. Let's go ahead and still build them, and probably where we have some good infrastructure as well. So Michigan would be one of them, right? Let's build a construction sector in Michigan. We have high infrastructure there, and we are going to build some good industry over there. So it's worth it. In New York, we already have 3, so I'm not doing this at the moment. We could also further move down here. There's also something else that counts here, is that if I build something down here, and we only have construction sector up here, it gets more expensive to build down there because, you know, it's a long distance to that. So we definitely want to keep local construction in states where we're intending to build a lot of stuff. So in Michigan, I know I'm going to build lots of industry, so I'm going to have a construction sector there, so they can directly build this rather than having a more expensive transportation of construction tools over there. New York is already pretty heavy on construction side. And I know I'm going to build a lot in Illinois because it's also having a pretty high infrastructure. So let's build another construction sector in Illinois. That would be 12,000 already in additional cost. It's risky, as I said, right? So we are getting down on the money. Let's build those 2 and let's actually boost them, right? So I'm going to put them first in the queue because right now they were actually last. And we want to finish this one as quickly as possible. So I'm going to stop my wheat farms there right now. And we're going to use that for my construction industry to finish this one as quickly as possible. The more construction I have, the faster it is. And as we can see, it doesn't even take that long to finish this one. Another thing comes up while the construction is working, high tension. So the tension is now increasing in the Great Sioux Nation, in Arapaho, and in Pawnee. So right over here, right? So the Great Sioux Nation, for example, yeah, they're now tense. The tension level is now tense. So there is going to be a war at some point. Now, we should prepare for this as well. It's, as we can see, the first levels of colony already are working here in these countries, in these very big flatlands, right? As we can see here, it's taking 137 days again for the next establishing of American colonies. But there already was something in place. Here, this one we have now. This one we have now, right? So we're slowly starting to eat up their state, their territory, more or less. Now, there's something very important that we need to understand, and that is that we have the state, right? We got the United States, that's the whole nation. It is consisting of states, and these states are consisting of regions, or not regions, sorry, of local areas, right? So right now we are eating up this state here, the South Dakota, which has this American South Dakota already, and the Native American South Dakota. So we are eating up their territory of the state here by now. The same goes with down here. We have the American Nebraska in the state of Nebraska, right? And we are eating it up slowly. And the more we eat up of that state, of course, the higher the tension rises to the Native Americans. So the game is already running. We are now finishing the first construction sector. That was expensive, so my money is already going down because of that. One more week and then we also finish the next construction sector. But what we'll see is that my construction capacity is going up. So we are getting 15 construction bonus right now of New York, Virginia, Ohio, and Massachusetts, right? So 5 each. There's one construction sector there. We are finishing one now in Michigan, so we'll get another 5 then capacity out of that. And we finish one more now. Let's actually speed it up just for this day, which is the week. Boom, there we have finished it, right? And with that, as we can see, construction capacity goes now up as these construction industries are ramping up. Let's just quickly check out Michigan. Beautiful with the big lakes around it, right? And we do now have the first construction sector. However, it is not working 100% right away, right? Because the biggest problem right now that we have here for this construction sector in Michigan... Oh, look at that. There's a peace treaty. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, Mexico actually was able to conquer Texas again. There will be another independence war here. But for now, Mexico was successful. So there is not going to be a Texan integration into the US anytime soon. Because they need to fight their own independence first again. About the construction sector. This is still not working. Why? Because there's no employment. As we can see now, there's coming some employment in. So this one is starting to work now slowly. Right? So as we can see, bureaucrats, clerks, mechanists, and laborers need to move in. They're moving to Michigan. And thus, Michigan also is growing in its population. As we can see, it's going up already by 1.1%. And the annual projection is actually 12%. Because we get some industry over here now that is demanding employment. People move where jobs are, of course. And construction sector is starting to work. And with that also the consumption of our construction materials. Iron, wood, tools, and fabric. Oh god, we are very, very low on these goods. Fabric is 1000 negative. That means a very high price on fabric. But my construction capacity goes up. 36 now. We have finished another construction sector. Let's actually build another one, right? We are very greedy with that, but let's build another one. Let's just see where we get some good infrastructure. In Indiana, there is also the infrastructure boost thanks to the lake and the rivers. And in Missouri, we got very good construction. No, infrastructure. Let's go with Indiana as my next one. Let's actually move this one all the way up again. Very good. I want to boost my construction, even though it is very expensive, right? But we have a high gold reserve right now, 4 million. So even if I go negative, because I want to invest so much, we can still afford this. Let's go ahead and have the construction really being pushed. And you know what? Let's actually build another one. This is going to cost me 20,000 in total once they're all working. So it will bring me really down, but I think we can afford this. Florida. I'm very, very cautious for anything for Florida. Iowa has very good infrastructure. Let's go with Iowa as one of my other construction sectors. Let's push this one up. Perfect. There you go. Going to take a very short time. It's going to take a bit more time than before it really works, right? Because it does need employment. It's at 1,500 now in Michigan. But as we can see, the shortage of iron is really hurting the industry. We can also see that here on the prices. So we get gold coins here. That means the price is very high for iron. So we will really have to pay a high premium price for construction right now. And there's some iron mines coming up though, right? So we really need to wait for that. My law in the meantime, the dedicated police force, is coming along. So there's only 88 more days before the next checkpoint is being reached. And since we're going to war with the Native Americans, we'll have to look at our military next, which I need to reform a bit because it's looking rather desolate there right now with only 6 battalions active. We definitely want to increase this. Though we have a very strong native of 25 flotillas. At least that is something. So far so good. So we have laid the foundation for our great nation. We have, well, just passed a few weeks. We're still in 1836, right? I'm waiting now for some constructions to finish, for employment to roll in, so that we can build more buildings more quickly, right? We want to really steamroll our economy into something massive. And we also continue with establishing some colonies here, step by step, to take it away from the Native Americans, as history demands us to do. And then we'll just continue here. I hope you enjoyed this one. Of course, there was a lot of fundamentals right now, and it's probably going to stay like this in the next episode. But I hope you stick with me, because we have a lot ahead of us and also a lot of very interesting things that are going to happen throughout this. Cheers!